this is mid-editing Ryan here, and I just wanted to cut in to let you know that the movie we're discussing is The Golden Compass. I ramble a while without ever stating it clearly, so there you go.
Welcome back, everybody. This time, I, Ryan, have picked the movie that I've inflicted on my co-host, Joe. And the reason I picked this movie was I wanted something to hate. There haven't been that many movies we've watched that we really just didn't like. So I was kind of looking for one that we could pick apart that'd be kind of refreshingly bad. And I heard a lot of places, I never saw this. It's a, kind of a young adult novel based movie from, I guess, around the time when they were, they had Harry Potter and the Twilight movies and all that sort of stuff was pretty recent and popular. And this was one that they tried to make happen, but it just didn't happen. They made one movie and that was it. So I figured this is a good place to start if we're looking for something that's going to be just fun. That being said, I was not disappointed. I was also very surprised by the cast. It actually has a good enough cast that there were a bunch of points where I thought this might be okay. And then I realized I think I'm just more enamored with everybody in it. I just want to see Daniel Craig dressed in like an old timey tweed suit doing sciencey expedition-y stuff. But I'm interested to hear what you think first.
All right, now this was a movie I had actually seen before. I don't think I went and saw it in the theater. I just watched it. Maybe I rented it or something after it came out. And when you said you were looking for a movie to tear apart, and then you said this movie, I was like, ooh, it's going to be rough because I actually like this movie.
Uh-oh.
Yep. I think there's some really good ideas in it, and I think there's some really good ideas in it, and they're obviously based on the novel. I think it's called His Dark Materials or something like that. It's now been made into like an HBO or some other, one of the streaming service series. But based on this novel, which I haven't read, I don't know anything about it. Just having watched that movie, and obviously I was an adult when I watched it, I miss those kind of movies. The Dark Crystal, the Neverending Story, Labyrinth, movies that were full of wonder and adventure. And I thought this movie kind of filled the glass in that case. I liked what it did to give me that style movie, because a lot of the ones that come out that are trying to be that now, aren't any good. But there were some ideas in this that I really thought it made me, having watched it again, I didn't really catch it the first time, because I wasn't as involved in the politics of the day as I am now as a much older person. And there were some ideas in this that made me think, oh, maybe this is why the Hollywood establishment or the critics or whoever was generally panning this thing didn't like it, because of some of these ideas that it's espousing. But besides that, I'll get into some of that later. I like the story. I like the adventure of it. I don't hate the main character. I was disappointed at the end of it, because, in spoilers, we're just going to talk about stuff in this movie. It's an old movie. We're not worried about, it's nothing new, so we're not going to try and hide a whole lot with it. But at the end of this movie, it doesn't end where, like, there's no conclusion to really anything. It's just these are the events that happened in this movie, and there's obviously much more to come.
It ends with, and now the real story can start.
Kind of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never enough of a draw to make me want to, like, go read the books or find anything else out about it. But I thought it was interesting, and there's some things in it that, I can pick apart, and I could say the certain things that didn't make sense or whatever. But based on some of the stuff that I looked up after watching it this time, it's a lot of studio interference, the director not really necessarily getting to tell the story exactly the way he wanted, that kind of thing, as can happen in lots of Hollywood movies. But somehow, I don't think you're going to agree with my assessment. So this could be a really interesting one. I like this. What did Ryan, the great and powerful Ryan, think of The Golden Compass?
I'm glad you asked. I've got some notes.
Oh, he took notes.
Allow me to show you.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not a short list. I'm not going to go through all of it. A lot of it's stuff that just occurred to me in the moment. But I was kind of annoyed with all the child actors. Just I don't know why. I think what it is there was a whole lot of adults explaining stuff to kids the kids have no business being involved with. You know, if this was a real world event and it was like the future of our world, of our freedom relies on whatever's going on, they're not going to sit around and explain it to these little kids. They're not going to be like, oh, this a little kid's not going to walk into the White House and the president's going to be like, please sit at the desk next to me and stuff like that. And that's kind of a lot of what was in this movie. Like, there's not, I guess there's nothing really that sets up Lyra as being special in any way. She's just handed stuff. Like, the first thing that sets her up as being kind of precocious and mischievous and sly is when she's running away from those other kids with her friend, the friend with the big like buck teeth.
Roger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just turns around. She's like, stop. And they all just kind of stop. They're like, what? Like, they didn't expect that. Like, they didn't know yelling stop was an option. And then she like convinces them that there's some kind of curse there and they have to do whatever. But then they all kind of smile like they're all buddies anyway. So it's right. Whatever. But so much of it was her being handed a thing and told that she's special. Like, oh, you're really special. Here, take this. Oh, you're really special. You need to come with me. Oh, no, she's really special. She needs to stay here. No, she needs to come with me because I'm special and she's special. There's just a lot of that. And it's like, let there be something about her. It's kind of like I got some early Harry Potter vibes in terms of the movies because I think the first couple Harry Potter movies were pretty bad compared to the books.
Okay.
So I do actually kind of wonder what the books were like because I'm guessing based on when this movie came out, the books probably came out when I was probably in the target demo for this, or at least not very far off, but I didn't know anything about it. So there's that. There's the fact that Nicole Kidman's character whispers everything. That annoyed me immediately. As somebody who edits these podcasts, it really bothered me to think about the guy who had to edit them, who had to account for people speaking at a normal volume like we are now, and somebody else who was whispering the entire time. You can even hear the quality of the sound kind of change because she's always whispering. And she also just like straight up kidnaps Lyra from that school. She comes in and the headmaster guy's like, oh, it's you. You're here. Why are you here? Why is she special? We don't know.
Nope, no idea.
We have no idea what her deal is until later when we find out that she works for the bad guys. So what was special about her that the people at the university were so worried about her being there and wanted to impress her or whatever? Why did they let her just take this child? We don't know.
Yeah, I was actually wondering that myself. Well, did it have to do with some standing she had with the school, or was it because the headmaster of the school knew where this little girl came from? Spoilers into this, the fact that Nicole Kidman's character and Daniel Craig's character are her parents. She thinks she's an orphan. She thinks Daniel Craig is Lord Alice, whatever.
Azrael.
I
was going to say Farquaad, but Azrael. I actually do remember it.
That would Farquaad would have been better. That she thinks he's her uncle, but he's not. He's actually her father. And when that reveal comes out later on, I did question why he didn't want to have her as just his daughter. And maybe that's something that would get explained in the next movie, later on in the books, whatever. But there are plenty of open-ended questions through this. I would say, to counter your point of why is she special, they did one of those, scrolling text, talking to expunge information in the very beginning of the movie. And I know you're not necessarily a big fan of those. I think in movies like this, it can fit better than other movies. Little adventures that are meant to be for a younger audience, to give them an idea of what's going on versus having to just watch and understand things. So it mentioned that, she's there. Nobody can read these alethiometers, these little truth-telling devices.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why could you guys, Hooligans, could you hear his eyes roll when I said that? I don't think you could, but that's kind of what happened there. So I think he's got some things to say about that stuff too, which I felt like it was more than just a MacGuffin. I felt that it was actually used for certain things. It wasn't explained very well. There were certain things in this that were not explained almost at all. There's some sort of witches in it, and I don't know what their whole deal is. They were in it for a little bit and then showed up at the end for some big action sequence, and I just didn't understand why they were there at all.
Yep. I don't know what their relationship is to any of it, other than they know what's up. They know something's coming, and they know this little kid's got to be involved because she's able to read the compass. They don't explain what reading the compass means. Like when she first really tries to use it, she like just looks at it and goes like, "Oh, a pot, like a recipe or a plan, and a snake is cunning, and the gobblers are cunning," and just like kind of sorts it out that way in her mind. And then this guy who's like, "I don't know how to use it. Like, I definitely can't do it." He's like, "Okay, this is what you have to do, and this is how you have to interpret it." It's like, pick one. You either know or you don't. And then it shows these visuals, and I wrote down in my notes like, are those for us or are those what she's seeing? Because it's like she's talking to her daemon. They call it a demon.
They call
It's
it a
spelled
demon.
with this
It is spelled
that weird
differently.
AE sort of
Mhm.
combination letter, which is interesting because when you look into like some of these paranormal theories and stuff like that, there is this theory that there's like an aspect of your soul that's kind of detached from your body, almost like you're the sprite in a game, and that's like the player,
Okay.
and then they refer to it as the daemon. So it's interesting that they have a similar thing there, but in their version, it's literally right there with you.
Yeah.
But
It
like
takes the form.
yeah, but that's like a theory that's supposed to explain like when you have that feeling like, oh, I shouldn't do this, or I need to watch out around this corner, or something like that. It's like there's another part of you that is like watching out for you.
Okay.
Anyway, it was just interesting that they use the same term.
And those things that these people, everybody has a demon, which is considered your soul, and they explain it as many different universes. Some universes like ours, your soul is inside you; it doesn't walk around next to you. Some in this world, it walks around next to you. In other worlds, you're not there, and it's just the soul. And so, just a variance of different things that it could be, and a bunch of different what ifs, you could
Yeah.
say, that they don't really go a whole lot into. But as a movie that is made for a younger audience, I thought that was neat. Having a little creature next to you that can kind of be your buddy, that would be something that would be neat if you were small. If you're like my son George's age and he's 10, that he would watch this and think, oh, that's a really cool thing. And your little demon is, as a kid, it hasn't fully decided what it wants to be. Some are dogs, some are cats. Hers can transform a bird, a ferret. There's a monkey in it. There's many different ones. It can turn into kind of whatever it wants. And I just thought that was a fun thing that the target demographic would probably look at and say, oh, that's really cool. I could see being that age and being, you know, picking that out in this as something that I would really want to glom onto because, oh, that's a really neat idea and I really like that.
I think it was kind of neat in that it gave you kind of abilities that you could have your little creature go off and do its own thing, but it did put you at danger too. Like you had some risk when you did it. It wasn't just like a freebie.
Mm-hmm.
When Billy has his go up on this roof and Nicole Kidman's monkey thing grabs it and strangles it, it strangles
Mm-hmm.
him.
Yeah.
Like
Whatever
both of them
happens to
experience
one
what
happens to
happens.
the other.
And I like that when they died, like in the scenes where a soldier or one of the Egyptians or whatever got killed, like their daemon just exploded into like this light dust stuff. That was kind of cool. But yeah, where I was going with that was like this thing is part of Lyra, and even it is telling her like, how are you going to read it? We don't know how to read this sort of thing, but somehow she just instinctively knows how to do it. The guy who's kind of an expert in it, who's explaining it to her, doesn't know how to use it. And I guess it's just supposed to be a superpower, but yeah, I was confused as to whether or not what we were seeing was her interpretation of it or something she is actually seeing in her mind's eye when she's using the thing.
I think that's fair. I'd like to equate her being able to use it to. I just happened to watch. I finished it today. Rocket Man, the movie that's about Elton John, and it shows him as a kid sitting down to a piano, and kind of like a Mozart, one of these just people who looks at something and understands how it works. He doesn't know why, but he can put his hands on the keys and like he can hear something and he can play it. There's a scene in it when he's going to try out for some Royal Music Academy, and he is hearing this instructor play a piece, and she stops when he comes in. And it's like, well, let's see what you can do. And he starts to play the piece exactly as she was playing it, and then he stops, and she was like, well, why did you stop? He's like, well, because that's where you stopped. And I think it's one of those that, or it's maybe meant to be an idea of something like that, that some people just understand things because that's what they're supposed to do. That's their calling in life. It's probably how, Tony Hawk was when he got on his first skateboard. He just understood it and, was a little bit better than you or I would be as a young person getting on a skateboard and falling on our ass and our face 8,000 times trying to understand how this thing works. So I kind of saw it from that aspect. Not to say there weren't some annoying things that went on in this movie. There's a few things that I wrote down that, well, how did this happen? That doesn't make a lot of sense. They just cut away from one thing and now something else is happening. I felt when Nicole Kidman's character first showed up, as soon as she felt like a bad guy, just immediately. There was something about her, something creepy. I know she was trying to heart with Lyra.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you don't like to follow? I don't like to. I had to work until I could walk around and not follow directions and do my own thing. But there was something about that. I thought she did a good job, and I mean, minus the whispering, playing that.
Am I right though? She whispered the whole time.
She whispered a lot of it, not all, a lot of it.
And if she gets any more pale, she's going to be translucent.
I mean, you might be that pale too if you were married to Tom Cruise. Scientology sucks your soul.
Nope, not going with that one. Okay.
I did think in the very beginning when Lord, God damn it,
Azrael.
I keep like from Narnia, Azrael. I should just know that. When he's talking to her and saying, "Okay, you can't ask about this, and you can't go with me. You can't do this." It's a very old trope in a kid adventure movie of the adult telling them you can't do this, and then the kid immediately going and doing the exact opposite of what they were just told to do.
Well, see, I like that actually kind of isn't how it starts with them. It starts with her hiding in that wardrobe thing just because she's being a kid and kind of being a jerk and just doing whatever. And then she sees that guy poison the wine. And when she comes out and she's like, don't drink it, that guy put powder in it. He's like, okay. Back in the closet, eyes open, mouth closed. Like sends her back. Okay, keep spying. Do your thing. I kind of like that. But then, yeah, you're right. A lot of the rest of it was like, no, don't do this. But then a lot of the rest of it was, like adults who really know what they're doing for some reason deciding to take this small child with them on like very dangerous adventures and stuff. Like for whatever reason, this little girl is like, imagine if Luke had been like 7 during that adventure and he was kind of leading this group around as like a 7-year-old. A little harder to take seriously. Yeah. I know it's a kid's movie and that's supposed to be the whole thing. It's like, yeah, kids can be important. Look at this story of a kid being important. But it's like, there's just so much of like, I feel like kind of the opposite of what you said, actually, that significant parts of the movie, it just like jumps back and forth between it's a little kid that nobody's taking seriously and it's a little kid that people for whatever reason like look up to just by default for no reason. It's like, oh, you're Lyra. We've heard of you. We've been watching out for you. You were never actually in danger this whole time. You're so wonderful because you're the one who can read this compass and like you have these weird visions from it or whatever.
I just don't think that's necessarily unheard of. Movies where you have Harry Potter, you have The Matrix, you have these movies where somebody is, or the Lego movie, The Special, somebody is the special. they're the special one. Why are they the special one? Because that's what the story needs to have happen. They needed one person to be able to do the one thing, and that doesn't necessarily make it great, but it's not unheard of either. I mean, that was basically Harry Potter. Oh, well, you're special because of this.
Nah, in Harry Potter, he gets his ass kind of kicked a lot, and he has to kind of earn what he's doing. Like a lot of it is him like screwing up.
This is true.
I sort of feel like by the end of that movie, he really hadn't earned anything because he just kind of like accidentally happened through a lot of it. Like I feel like the books were pretty good, and there was a lot of work that he put into stuff, and a lot of like creativity and problem solving and things like that. But a lot of those movies were him like just getting lucky and making it through stuff. Where this one, like this little girl just knows what to do. Like she knows how to trick the Bear King. She knows how to get all these people to work for her for whatever reason, or they just straight up offer. Like Sam Elliott shows up. Sam Elliott's in this movie, and I was like, maybe this movie's good. And then I was like, no, don't get blinded by the glorious mustache and that voice.
And that silky, sultry, smooth voice.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't just know how to trick the Bear King. She was given a little bit of background information. And she used that background information, being a clever child though she is, to come up with an idea. Granted, an idea that could have very easily gotten this very good friend of hers killed.
Yeah. Ian McKellen.
Yep.
Bear Ian McKellen. The cast was so good, dude. There was so much. Like every scene, it's like, is that so and so? Like when you hear Ragnar the Bear King speak, that's Ian McShane, right? Yeah,
right. So it was Ian versus Ian in that fight.
I know. I was like, wait a minute, I know that voice.
Yep.
And that fight was terrible. That was really bad. The CG was bad. The fight was bad. You know, whatever the bear's name is, she says his full name like 37 times in the movie, and I still can't remember it. Ian McKellen. I even just wrote the bear as Ian in my notes. But he gets like bit in the arm, and then he's like holding his arm, and then all of a sudden he just like does a Mortal Kombat finisher on the other bear who's towering like 15 feet above him all of a sudden in this shot. Like doesn't punch his jaw, punches it off.
Yeah. He bear swipes it off. That was actually the only part of the fight I liked. How it ended.
Yeah, it was like, ooh, that was really brutal for like a kids movie,
wasn't it? That's exactly what I thought. I'm like, oh, damn, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, like Sam Elliott like meets Lyra and then's like, oh, you need to hire yourself a pilot and some muscle. What? I've never looked at a little kid like sitting at a rest stop or something when I've been on vacation, like stop somewhere, and like had any notion that I should tell a child that. It's never occurred to me, like go up to a little kid and be like, you should be carrying a gun. It's kind of dangerous out here. You know, this isn't the Legend of Zelda. It's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this. Like he wasn't part of this stuff before. He didn't know what was going on with them. So why would he have said that to her? And then he shows up after the bear gets his armor back, and he's like, "Hey, man, I came here to free you, but this little girl is super resourceful, right?" It's like, what? Was that your plan? How? What? I'm sure there's more in the book that would have explained. I hope so. I hope there's more in the book that would have explained it. The best scene though with Ian was when she's saying, "You could take me there. You could take me there and get me back before anybody knew we were gone." And he just looks at her. He's like, "You wish to ride me?" And I really want that as a sound clip. Like,
oh my god,
you've talked about bringing the soundboard back. I want that clip.
That's I know why you want that back. That's not okay. That's not. Come on, man. You just want to have a soundbite of Ian McKellen saying that.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I have some other sound clips I came up with during this that I would have used, but yeah, I just. And then they make whatever her name is, Nicole Kidman's character, they make her kind of sympathetic by having her be the mom that they reveal, but she's also like a lunatic.
Absolutely.
Because she slaps her own like monkey thing that is her, so she should feel that too, but she doesn't act like she does.
No, but when she's holding it and they pan to the other side of her, there's like this mark on her face.
Was there?
There was.
I didn't notice it.
So I thought, my first thought is like, why would you do that? But then the other side of that, I think, is that just shows how insane and hardcore you are.
Yeah.
Like, even
And
if
then
it
she's
hurts you, you're gonna hurt this thing to put it in, to, have it toe the line. You're gonna do what I say, because even if it hurts me, I'll hurt you.
yeah. And she has her Damon attack Lyra's and
Mhm.
hurts it, which hurts her. And then she's like, "Oh, I would never really hurt you. Like, now give me a kiss." And then smacks the monkey thing. And I don't know if she actually said it with the little girl, but she says to the monkey, like, "Oh, I would never hurt you."
Yeah.
Whack. 3 seconds later, "I would never hurt you." Okay, cool. Cool story. And
I
then,
mean, that's standard abuser abusee relationship right there.
yeah, I know. I know. I guess the thing that's really jarring about a lot of it to me is that really all of the characters, it doesn't, none of it feels natural. You don't come into any scenes where they're just doing stuff. A lot of other movies, including the Harry Potter movies, they have scenes where they're just being themselves and doing their thing.
Mhm.
They're just having dinner and being friends, and so you see the friendship evolve. And maybe something plot related happens during that, or they're sneaking out to Hagrid's cabin because they want to visit him because they like him or whatever, and then maybe something plot related happens. You can tie it into it without it having to be just what this movie did, which is hard cut to another scene where somebody gives like an impassioned speech, like, "We will whatever," like the Egyptians when they're talking about that they're gonna like basically take their revenge and not be under anybody's thumb anymore. It cuts there just for that and then away again. And then it cuts to Nicole Kidman, just long enough to show like she is, like you said, hardcore enough to hurt herself just to put something else in its place.
Mhm.
And then it cuts away. There are these little disjointed moments stuck together that they kind of work, but they're jarring enough that it's like I don't really know who these people are. I know how they will behave in certain situations, and I do think I know why they chose this specific girl to play Lyra. She's one of those kids who looks grown up. She has very adult expressions. She emotes very well. The way she speaks is very clear, and you know what I mean? Like some of the other
Yeah.
like the kid that plays Roger looks
Yeah.
like a little kid. He looks like a goofy little kid. Most little
He-
kids are goofy. Every once in a
Absolutely.
while you get one that looks like a tiny adult, and she looks like a tiny adult, and that's why they chose her. I'm
Okay, I get that.
100% sure. Like but yeah, there were still just these moments where it's like, I don't know if I like her because I don't know her well enough. All I know about her is she's rebellious. I don't really understand why all these adults are following her. They didn't make much of that believable. Like there was a very well known thing that happened with Harry Potter, right? It was
Yes.
like the most powerful being in the world tried to kill this little kid, and somehow that being died. What is up with this kid? That's what makes him special.
Yep.
That's why everybody knew who he was. Like with this, it's just like, yeah, this little kid seems to have it together.
I
I
guess
mean,
I think that's fair. One of the With what you said and how nothing, they didn't just come into something, the kids or the people, the adults, them just doing something. I think one of the only times that actually happened in the movie was in the very beginning when you were introduced to the kids and they're just playing a game. It's
mhm.
like tag, but it's more than that, and they're just all running around playing together, and then that leads into everything else. But
Yeah, but it's
you're
like the
right.
only time they did that. I think maybe this is what you were starting to get to. I'm sorry to interrupt. That there was studio interference or something. Because it was
Yeah.
kind of a short movie for as much as they stuffed into it.
Hmm.
I think the actual movie was only about an hour and 43 minutes. And there was
Yeah,
about 10 minutes of credits.
it was under 2 hours. When I did a little bit of research on it, the director talked about how the studio made him cut it down to being under 2 hours when this could have easily been a 2.5 or slightly longer movie, to be able to give you more character buildup, to be
Yeah.
able to give you backgrounds and motivations and things with characters. And I'm I'm really getting sick of studio interference to cut down a runtime for something that shouldn't be cut down. It's really like they obviously wanted this to have sequels. Look at the way it ended. It was obviously meant to have the story continue, yet it never did because it didn't do well enough fiscally to, support that. But maybe had you let this director, who the studio signs the director they want, he gives them their vision, his vision of the idea, and maybe actually just let him do it, and you'll get something that's a little more worthwhile, and stop being so afraid of, oh, it's too long, nobody's gonna like it, they don't have that much time to. Well, look, we have nothing but time now. Thanks, COVID. I'm sorry, virus of unknown origin.
Unspecified virus of unknown origin.
Right. It is. I understand your gripes for the movie, and I do get it, and I understand a good deal of why it didn't do well. But some of why I think it didn't do well, and a lot of this really was shown in the very beginning parts of the movie, and that is stuff like when the gentleman from the Magisterium, and that's something we haven't mentioned yet, that is a organization in this universe that it's kind of like an overarching government, like a big brother sort of thing, that they're there to tell everybody what to do. And the headmaster of the school says, I quoted this is the first note that I wrote, "I'll not dispense with centuries of tolerance and free thinking," because, and it was in relation to not wanting Daniel Craig's character to come and speak.
Yep. Lord Bond.
So I think a lot of there's certain lines in this movie where it talks about how the Magisterium people are all in a little bit talking. One of them is Christopher Lee. He's in this.
Yeah,
for
and
like
he's
a
not
line.
he's not the main guy. I was like, oh, is he the real, like, no, it's this other, like, totally forgettable guy that looks like somebody's grandpa I saw at McDonald's.
Right?
Like, just looks like a totally normal dude you would see out in your day, like Christopher Lee.
How do you not use Christopher Lee?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he
I
just
heard that
looks
voice
like
and-
he's
Oh,
yeah. That's the voice you need for your bad guy.
yep, 100%. But anyways, besides that, in that scene when the Magisterium people are talking, they're talking about the problem of these free thinkers and heretics, and how they put the idea of being a free thinker with the idea of being a heretic. That it's almost, I don't know if 100%, but almost Orwellian in the idea of the Magisterium wanting to control everything, to control what you do, how you perceive things, what you think. And I think it's very similar to what goes on with our media nowadays, and people in their little echo chambers and only viewing this side or this other side of all the media that they intake, and each one of those sides wanting you to just believe their side without wanting anyone to do any research into the real background of whatever it is you're concerned about.
Yeah.
And I do believe one side does that a great deal more than the other side. I at least hear from the other side sometimes, do some research. This is just my opinion. Figure it out for yourself. But I think there's a lot of that nowadays. And I think that could be one of the reasons this movie didn't do well, because it was promoting ideas that are contrary to what a lot of media sources are doing right now. That they want you to listen to what we're saying, and you have to agree. It's just one of the things right now. You have to agree with what I agree with, or I can't be your friend anymore. I can't associate with you. And I am so sick of that crap. We can have a discussion. You and me can think differently about this movie. I can like it, you can hate it, and we can talk about it, and that's all right. We're not gonna screw you. I'm not gonna podcast with you anymore, because that's not the way that's supposed to work.
Because we disagreed on a failed YA franchise.
Oh, YA film franchise. That's fantastic.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I actually got some of that. It's like, oh, they're a little, yeah, kind of like what we're hearing now. Like, people are talking about China and how bad China's gotten with their censorship.
Oof.
And how other
Really
countries might be going that way, and like half of the world is under some kind of authoritarian rule right now.
Yeah, they
And-
even mentioned that we owe it to the young to, to take care of this stuff. And that's before you find out what they're exactly trying to do, which is sever the connection between the kids and their demons. For what purpose, we don't know, because the movie, the way it was done, the way it ended, I assume all that's supposed to be explained later.
Yeah.
They don't really go into a whole lot of it. But I think that's one of those things that it's it's what they did in Nazi Germany. They got to the kids in schools and convinced them of certain things, that certain people were not okay and other people were to be more desired. And that's one of the things that they're trying to do in schools now with some of this critical race theory stuff. And it's a really slippery slope. It's very dangerous thinking to do stuff like that instead of just saying, hey, everybody's a person. Like the old Dr. Seuss book, Horton Hears a Who. A person's a person, no matter how small. We're all just people. You're a person, I'm a person. Rich person over there, poor person, they're people. Regardless, we both hearts, blood, lungs, we poop, all of it. It's just people.
You can't smile at me when you say poop like that.
I can, and I will. One of the other things that I liked about this movie when I first saw it, and here again, is the sense of wonder and adventure in the world itself. It's not super different from, I guess, what it's trying to set up. It's kind of an old-timey London. It looks like almost 1800s kind of dress and buildings and different things, but it also has this very steampunk vibe to it.
Yeah, I wrote that down too, that it kind of reminds me of like Treasure Planet.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have technology that like, especially at the end, that like boat thing that they're flying on, that is straight out of Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it I just wrote down. It's like futuristic steampunk tech with, it's like technology evolved with no practicality. Like you can have any kind of supercar you want, but no, they're going to do a carriage and the driver's still going to sit on the outside of it and stuff like that. Like it's just, like that didn't change, but the tech did.
Yeah.
They have like this kind of moving picture thing that they put in a projector and all that. It's like, yeah, I mean, but I can use AirPlay to my Apple TV to do the same thing. Like it's just a different way of doing it. It's a very steampunk way. I really like the airship though, with the metal hull and the
I'll
jet
say
engines
which one
on the side.
was it? Nicole Kidman's or
Yeah.
Sam Elliott's?
No, it was Nicole Kidman's. It reminded me a little bit of like Nemo's steampunk submarine from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, okay.
In just the scale of it, it's like, this is for one person. Like I assume that was like an airliner. I assume that was that world's version of like
the Hindenburg.
No, I was gonna say like Southwest or American or something like that.
Okay.
But it's like
much more generic. Well, all right.
Yeah, I just thought that's how they get around, but it's like, no, it's apparently hers. Like it's just hers. Like if you're rich here, you have a Bugatti. If you're rich there, you have that.
That seems about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeff Bezos hopefully doesn't see this, because then he's going to start like, oh, I need to. But can it also go to space?
Maybe it might. So one of the things, there was a scene in it that I thought was one of those things that just didn't make sense, and I didn't like it. And I don't know how it goes in the book, and I have to assume that if this is a scene that's taken out of the book, that there's more description to what goes on. But when Lyra, apparently Roger and another friend of Lyra's get captured, and they're taken to this place up north, close to where these ice bears live, that's a whole different subplot of the movie. But when she gets there and they take her in and she gets to go as, oh, they're having dinner. So you came at just the right time. And she goes in and she sees Roger, and they tries to, kind of low play it so they don't obviously know that they know each other. And you see like there's a couple of nurse looking women walking around in there, a doctor
like
standing by a door.
Yeah, they're definitely supposed to look like caretakers, but they're totally
some orderly
guards.
guy. And then all of a sudden, she needs to leave to go be by herself to go do something, and they're just out of the room. And I said, well, that room looked like they were watching those kids pretty close.
Yeah,
How
it
did they
didn't
get
look
out of
like
the room? I don't know.
Yeah, it totally didn't look like a room where it's like, oh, you can just leave if you want.
Yeah,
Like
there was not that feel with that.
Like Jerry Daycare. Oh, I'm leaving. Well, that was always allowed.
Nice. That's good. That's good reference.
Yeah, I now that you've brought that up, that it was cut down a bunch, I'm thinking that these little moments that just seem so random, cut to the Egyptians, the guy's having that impassioned speech and like slams that hammer down on the table. Cut to Coulter, was that Nicole Kidman's character's name?
Yes, Mrs. Coulter.
And she's
I don't know why
slapping.
that she was called Mrs.
Yeah,
Like, who was she supposed to be married to? But they definitely said Mrs. But whatever.
and she slaps the monkey, which sounds like a euphemism, but she's actually slapping a monkey. I don't know what it would mean. I'm not. What are you looking like that for? But she,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't just please be innocent.
they're
You know
just
that soundbite of Ian McKellen, and you're talking about slapping monkeys. Come on, man. Let's keep this above board.
this
All
is a
right.
family-friendly podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't, now I'm thinking it's probably just those were the moments they had to have to like keep some impact, or some studio executive like watched a full like 5-minute scene and was like, wow, that speech was great. Just do that. They're like, but it loses its impact if you don't have the 5 minutes that build up to it. Like, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I wonder. It's one of those movies that I enjoyed it because I enjoy those sort of even young adult action adventure wonderment, this different world, these different ideas. I enjoy that stuff, and I just think the potential was there for something much better than what we got. Like
I
the
think
idea of uh York Burnson, that was his name. I remember
Yeah.
York Burnson, this big ice bear guy who is just some big talking polar bear who's a badass. That sounds fun. What's not to be fun about that in this, adventure setting? But the way it was cut down, the way they did things, the questions that are left open. I understand it was right that when this movie came out, it was right during the time when they were really trying to push, if a movie's going to come out, that we want it to be a franchise, not just a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right when that idea was getting big, and that's obviously what they expected to happen. But that's not going to happen if you don't let the movie be what it's supposed to be. And this is, I think, a very good example of, or bad example, however you want to put it, of studio interference killing something that could have been great, and because of what they did, wasn't.
Yeah. I do think there was a lot of potential there, to the point that at the beginning I felt like, oh, this might be kind of good. And then towards the end I was like, maybe I should read the books. And then I looked it up and there's a bunch, so maybe not.
How many really? Is there not like just a 3-novel thing? Is it a lot?
I don't know. Let me see. Golden Compass books. Oh, there are just 3. Okay. And yeah, you're right. It's called His Dark Materials. That's the whole, I guess that's the name of it,
Uh-huh.
Song of Ice and Fire. It's that sort of title. There are 3. There's Northern Lights, or the Golden Compass, the Subtle Knife, and the Amber Spyglass. So maybe I will read them. I don't know.
I'd
And they
like
came
to. I
out-
wouldn't mind, even for young adults, seeing how they translated that first book into this movie. Like what they're doing with this Dune that's coming out.
Mm,
That they're only taking this movie that's coming out is only the first half of the first book.
yeah. I'm really
So-
excited for that reason.
Yep,
That
absolutely.
they're
Did
actually
you
going to
watch
take their time. I watched the
Drinkers?
Drinker review.
Okay,
Yeah, his not
alright.
review, but his like, I'm hopeful. Please don't
Uh-huh.
screw it up video. Yeah, because I like it. I hope they don't mess it up. That's all I want to say. But yeah, I don't know. I might read the books, but I think a lot of it is just super disjointed. There's a lot of like just explaining shit to kids and bringing kids places that you shouldn't. If I was in trouble, if something real serious was going on, if I was like, okay, some shit's going down tonight and I need backup, and I go over to your house, I'm not taking George.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Give me the 10-year. I pick him up by the ankle and just like throw him in my trunk. Like, I'm not taking the little useless kid with me. No offense to George if he ever hears this, but it's like, yeah, I need an adult who knows what they're doing. And I get that she's special, but they just don't do enough with her being special like that to, I don't know, to make it feel earned. I'm not sure exactly what it is that's missing in it when you compare it with something like Harry Potter.
I think it
Except in
could have
Harry
been
Potter,
better.
there's a lot of development. There's a lot of him like being put in his place. There are certain characters that specifically go out of their way to like disrespect him because he has this unearned like fame and reputation.
Mhm.
And there's all this stuff that he has to overcome. And then he does have this potential. and he has this destiny that's intertwined with the villain. And you know that. And with this, it's she can read this compass thing, but they don't do I guess this is what it is. They don't do really anything to explain why we should give a shit about this compass. Because Lord Asriel goes off to do his thing without it. So if he can just do stuff without it, what does it matter? And I still don't totally understand what it does, because it's supposed to like help you find the other realms or something, but it also just tells you the truth about things.
I don't know
and
about
like
the finding
shows
the
you
other
some
realms.
visual.
I know it's the truth thing based on I think what it said, and it was a big deal for her at the end of the movie to take it to Lord Asriel, who is her father. Why we don't know. I think this character might have been better served with some more, maybe a couple of slices of humble pie. Like they need her to read the compass, but don't be just awesome at everything else. Like
Yeah, like Harry Potter
Harry
was
Potter
useless.
getting lucky
Yeah.
at, and he even in the movies, he's like, they're like, you did this and you took down the ogre or the troll or whatever it was in the bathroom. It's like, no, I didn't. We got lucky. All this stuff. Even he talks about that in the Order of the Phoenix. You fought this, you've done that. He's like, no, mostly it was just being like in the right place at the right time and then being lucky. I'm not this person you think I am.
Yeah.
And that was nice to see that. It would be nice if I agree with this little girl character if everything wasn't she just wasn't great at everything. If there was some sort of, hardship, like there was her demon getting attacked by the monkey, and so Nicole, Mrs. Colton, whatever, put her in her place, kind of like that. But then she just escaped. Then she's in her room, and then she's like, "Well, let's go check out what's in that other room." And all of a sudden, she can just get back out of her room, and you know that this kid's kind of a problem. When it just some of it was too easy, and when things are too easy, it doesn't make for good storytelling.
Yep. I agree with that 100%. Like getting out of that room where they're being watched. Why did they let them out? I don't know. Why were they able to go into this room and hide? And why is that the room where they meet with important guests? Why is that the one that's unlocked? And like the kid even says they don't even use this one, but that's the first place they go when she shows up. There's just so much logistically that doesn't make any sense. And yeah, they don't do anything that makes the kid seem actually special. And I don't even think that it's like that she's overly good at everything. I didn't get any of those vibes like there's like a, girls have to be great or the kids all have to be great. It's just everybody treats her as though she's special, but she's never put in a situation where she has any challenges that require somebody special or show that she's special. Like she thinks quickly, she pits the one bear against the other. It's pretty quick thinking, but it's not. She hasn't done anything on her own, really, except talk well. He even calls her like Silver Tongue or whatever because she was able to say that and figure that out quickly.
Like when Scoresby, that's
Sam Elliott, yeah.
Sam Elliott's character. It would have been more interesting had he met her as kind of like as a hero character where she's in over her head with something and he's like, "Oh, there's something going on with this little kid. Let me step in and be a good guy and stop it." Like that would have made more sense than him just noticing this little girl. And I assume that it was because she was she was reading or doing her thing with the alethiometer, and he looked at that and maybe he knows what it is because he's just a character who needs to know what it is. I don't know, but their introduction could have been done a little bit better, and maybe it was, maybe it should have been, maybe there was more to it that we just didn't get to see. They had to do it that way because of time constraints. How is it different in the book? I don't know. Maybe it's better.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about him knowing what that thing was. I mean, he saw that it was something, but it's like I didn't get vibes that he knew exactly what it was. He was just like, "You're a kid. Why do you have that? What is that? That looks fancy."
I don't know. I think there's two schools of thought on this movie, and I think I liked it because I saw the potential in it, and
I don't like it because I saw that they squandered it
a little. I think I'm starting to feel that way a little bit more now. Oh man, why do you have to bring me down? Don't bring me down. Maybe I needed it. Knock me down a peg or two.
yeah, it needed more. They needed more time. They needed more movies. I think there was potential here. It's like, I mean, I made my parents watch Guardians of the Galaxy because they were like, "What are all these Marvel movies about?" And that was like the one that at that time didn't tie into anything else, so they could watch it, and it didn't matter that they hadn't seen anything else. And when
Okay.
Groot dies, spoiler for like a 10-year-old Marvel movie at this point, when Groot dies, my mom cried. And then she at the end she was like, I just cried over like a cartoon tree. She's like, what is going on? And it's that, I mean, when it's done well, when they allow the time to have all the characters develop properly, you can get really attached and a world can seem very real.
Yep.
And they did that in that movie. In this movie, they had a lot going for, like ice bears in their own kingdom. Why not? You know, a kingdom for different kinds of creatures works perfectly fine in a lot of sci-fi properties, including, Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, or all the different races and, different sort of idiosyncrasies that come with them. Drax and his people not understanding humor or
Metaphors.
sarcasm or metaphors. Like,
People are totally literal.
yeah, it seems totally reasonable when they, when you spend a little bit of time with them, and it's, some things are obviously a joke, but it's like, yeah, why not? But in this, it was just so jarring. It's like they just didn't set it up very well, and I think that's why it failed.
And it is too bad that it failed. I thought it could have been something good. I
That and
enjoyed it,
maybe
but then I watched it again and we talked about it, and now I enjoy it less. Son of a bitch.
well, now I kind of want to see the HBO series if they did it better. And really, part of the problem might have been, the movie coming out 7 years after the last book, because the movie was 2007, the last book was 2000, as far as I could find.
Mhm. One
So
of the
that's a
other
long
things,
time. Like, that's a long time for the kids who grew up with that to just grow up further. I mean, I didn't start reading the Harry Potter books until, I guess, middle school, like later middle school, like 6th or 7th grade. And I think they had already been out for a couple of years, maybe. I don't know when they started coming out. But it was one of those things like where as the books came out, they got darker as I got older.
Mhm.
And it was this really cool phenomena that I don't, we've talked about a little bit, that it was like a thing that you would go to the bookstore and wait for this to come out. Like it would be a big deal to get the new one.
Mhm.
And they grew up with us. And then the movies kind of did the same thing. The movie started coming out sort of alongside the books, but staggered obviously. But there wasn't this huge amount of time to elapse to where the kids who read the books were adults when the movie came out. Like they
I get
kind of
that.
were, but it was over a longer period of time, so you were invested enough that you wanted to keep seeing them.
So one of the little trivia tidbits I found out about this, you had mentioned something about Game of Thrones and George R. R. Martin. He made the decision to not turn his books into movies because of this movie and to go with a TV series instead.
He made the right decision.
Yeah. I mean,
Apart
up
from how it
up
ended.
until them getting
Season
past
7.
his books.
Yeah. I think it was season 6 where they outpaced the material like towards the end of it.
I feel like maybe he could have just finished the series and, that would have, in the amount of time that it took to get those done, he could have, I don't know, been writing. That'd have been great. At this
I
point, I do not at all care about whatever next book he's going to have come out. I'm not going to read it. I've read all of them. And in order for me to read that last book and get anything out of it, I would literally have to read all of the other books again. And that's too much. Nope. It's too many names, too many titles, too many families, too much garbage. Not doing it.
Yeah.
Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
Yep. I was gonna say I read, I think, the first 3 books, and at this point, yeah, I don't care anymore because I don't know that he's ever actually gonna finish them. Because now apparently he's moved on to writing other TV shows or something. He's not even gonna do any more books.
Really?
I mean, at least, like, he put out that tweet talking about, I promise I'm going to finish it, and if I don't, you all as my fans have like my permission to lock me up in this cabin until I finish it. And then he didn't do it, and then I think he was bitching at people on his blog or on Twitter or something when they were complaining that he didn't have it done when he said he would have it done, and made all these promises. And it's like, yeah, I just don't think I want to read anything from this guy anymore.
Right?
Like, the
That's
books were really good. I would really like to see his ending versus what they gave us, but I
Could
think
you
he lost
imagine going
interest.
and rereading all of them again?
No, not at
Oh, it's
all.
so much.
I have no time to do that.
It's too much. It's way too much of an investment that I'm not willing to do. You got anything else? Any more?
Let me consult my list.
Look at your notes. No, there was
Yeah. How did the giant polar bear sneak into that showdown between the little kids and those like Russian soldiers? Because they were all carrying Russian weapons. Those were Mosin Nagant rifles for certain. And it was I forget what it's called. It's made by the same guy, but the revolvers that they had, I'm 99% sure that was a Russian revolver as well. But those guys show up out of nowhere. Like they just march in out of nowhere, and then the polar bear shows up behind them, behind the kids. Giant polar bear, like 15 feet tall when he's standing up.
in
And he
between.
just shows up behind these little kids, and somehow everybody's surprised that he's there. Like, what? What?
Okay, yeah. I think my last thing is that whole scene. So I think something that would have made more sense, at least because we didn't get any more background on the witches. These witches show up in this.
Mhm.
And as that scene you talked about where she's going to ride him to do her little her
Okay,
little side quest.
all I could think of was God, what, Duck Dynasty. You know, okay, you probably never seen it. My brother watched it. My brother, like, ironically loved that
I know
show.
of it.
But yeah, there's a scene in that show where he's telling the one guy, Cy, he's telling him, he's like, you know, Uncle Cy ran naked till he was 6 years old. That's what I thought of. Because the polar bear's like, you want to ride me? He's like, it's going to be faster without armor. And I was just thinking, like, polar bear runs naked.
Oh my god. Polar bears do run around naked. That's not an incorrect statement.
And then
So
that
as
whole
they're
thing,
doing that, they see a bunch of witches flying over. And he mentions, oh, what's going on with this? Oh, looks like they're going to war. You better not hope it's for your enemies, otherwise you've already lost. But then they show up to fight against these Russian wolf guys, you know, with all their demons or wolves, and they're chasing down these kids. And my immediate thought is, oh, all these, like, the help that comes for these kids doesn't get there fast enough to stop them all getting slaughtered.
yeah, if they just
Or
would
at
have
least
shot
encircled and not being allowed to run away.
any
something.
point where there was a gun involved, if anybody would have just pulled the trigger, the movie was over. Like the polar bear comes out of that office with his armor on, but the armor covers like 60% of his body.
Yeah.
It's like if any of the soldiers had just shot,
that.
yeah, if any of the soldiers had just fired, that part of it's done. If the soldiers standing in front of the kids just fired, you know, and she walks out into the middle of it and she's like, come on, son.
Basically what it is.
Yeah, but
So
she
I
comes out,
didn't
she's like, bring it,
understand-
do it.
Yeah, I didn't understand as that whole battle starts, the witches coming in and doing stuff. I think it would have been better served if, you know, there's that confrontation between the kids and the men, and then you hear this rumble as all the bears following brand new King Bear, who's like, hey, we're going to go do this. You're going to follow me because I'm the king. Let's go. And they come in to help. And then the Gypsians that she was already working with, they come in from the other side. And that's where there's a climactic battle to try and save these kids. That would have made more sense.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that bother me is witches are flying around and they're fighting. I would have believed it a little bit more, and maybe some witches died. Not one witch got shot, went down, nothing. And no, because in war, even if you're a group of badasses, some of you are going down.
Yeah,
bullets are flying. Like, you're going to get hit. You're going to get taken out from behind you while you're focusing on an opponent in front of you. That's how battle works. And it didn't. And so it took away from any sort of believability to whatever these realistically unknown characters. We don't know what their real motivations are. We don't really know why they're there, why they're on their side. We don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Maybe there would have been more development with it. Maybe there were scenes that were cut. I don't know. But it was just very poorly done.
Speaking of the witches, Serafina Piccola or whatever, Eva Green's character.
Yeah,
Eva Green.
character.
She I mean, she's been in a bunch of stuff. I would know her best as Vesper from Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. So that's kind of cool if they're
Oh,
both in the same movie.
okay.
I realized what it is that is so strange about her a couple movies ago, like a couple appearances ago. She doesn't move her eyebrows. And it freaks me out that nobody is talking about this. Like, I searched Reddit, I searched different forums. Nobody is talking about the fact that her eyebrows never move.
I
Like,
did not notice that.
yeah, when she's talking, when she's emoting, when she's doing whatever, like your eyebrows go up when you're surprised and down when you're angry or concentrating, or, one you raise like the Rock when you're intrigued. Hers never move at all in anything. I actually rewatched Casino Royale just to watch her eyebrows when I realized it. And they never moved once. And they never moved once during this either. I did find a couple people saying they find something very unsettling about the way she looks, but they can't put their finger on why. They're like, it's something about the eyes. Maybe there's something like weird with the angle. No, it's that her eyebrows don't move.
Wow, you nailed it.
It's freaking me out. I don't.
It makes me
I
want to watch
don't know what it
Sin
means.
City again. She's in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh man,
I think
that's
that might have been when I watched where I finally realized what it was actually.
huh.
But yeah, her eyebrows never move. Yeah, so that's the only thing that really bothered me about the witches. The rest of it I was like, yeah, whatever. They're witches. They're just here to be magical. They're like elves. They just kind of show up and do what they need to do when they need to do it.
Yeah, but at least in Lord of the Rings, when the elves fought, they were dying.
True. But
Like
this is a kid's.
they're badasses, but they can't
Maybe
be
that's.
killed.
You know what? Maybe that's where they missed with this. It would have been better if it was more adult, since it came out so long after the books. Like the kids who read it were more grown up and would have preferred something less kid oriented.
Maybe.
Just
That's
carry
what I
that
said
weird
about
Mortal Kombat
the
energy through the whole thing.
Yep. Well, okay. Maybe that's we did get the bear fight. There was a little bit of it in there, but that's what I said about the Aladdin movie, the remake that they did. If they'd have done a remake but made it darker,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good idea with this, to take it in a more adult, realistic version of it. That could have been
Yeah.
really good. And
Yeah, I
maybe
mean,
that's what the HBO series is doing. I don't know.
Yeah, because if you were 12 when you finished reading these books, like when the last one came out, you were 19 when this movie came out. Your tastes had probably changed.
A little bit.
Okay, but rapid fire, my last three things.
Rapid fire. Here we go.
Rapid fire. Okay, the bear tells Lyra to run on that little bridge, and she just stands there for like 30 or 40 seconds and then very slowly crawls up an incline, looks at the building in the distance. He's like, hold tight right there. I'll go get back up and we're going to go mess these people up. And she's like, yeah, nah, and just goes into the building anyway and gets captured.
Yeah,
When-
it's already been established she doesn't do what she's told.
No. So most of that conflict, well, I mean, it's not like it caused any trouble anyway. Nobody really died that mattered, but all of it probably could have been avoided or handled a lot better because nobody would have known that anybody was there if she had just done what she was told and waited, But what do I know? Why didn't Coulter just take the compass from her when she was asleep? Why didn't anybody go through her stuff when she was asleep? She had this thing the whole time. Everybody's looking for it, but they all wait till she's awake to look for it. And then they're like looking at the bag she's holding. It's like, oh, is it in there? Let me pick through your bag. It's like, you pulled her out of that machine. She was captured. You had her stuff. Did you put her in the bed with her bag and be like, I know this compass is on her somewhere. And because she's a little kid, it's like 20% of the size of her body, but I can't figure out where it is. Sorry, I got a little bit worked up for that one. Second, no, this is three. I'm on three. Third point. If you took a drink every time somebody said Lyra, you would die by the end of this movie.
I assume you mean of booze.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
you might get water poisoning. I don't know. It only takes a couple gallons, and they say her name probably every 4 seconds.
That's nice. I don't know if I noticed that.
I've
So,
noticed it ever since Night and Day.
with Cruz and Diaz.
Yeah, because he keeps saying her name. He's like, June. You're like, do this, June, do that, June. Like, June, we're gonna do this. Like, June, are you all right? And she's like, you keep saying my name. It's freaking me out. And now I notice when people say somebody's name over and over.
Okay.
Like
all
ever
right.
since that.
I don't think I've actually watched Night and Day. All right.
Oh my god, that movie's so good. The extended cut is terrible, but the original theatrical cut is great.
Okay.
Just everything that they added with the extended one is just like useless. That's one where removing stuff made it better.
Okay. I mean, that's why people are editors. That is the thing. So, Halligan's here's the time. What we're going to come down to. Is this a watch or is this not a watch? What say you, my compadre?
I think after careful consideration, this is probably not a watch from me. But you do you. Don't make it a drinking game though.
I do regularly. So no. My original thought would have been a watch, and no, I'd still say a watch. I think it's fun. I know there's problems with it, but I like those movies that just try to be young kid adventure movies. It's not for us. This movie's not made for us. It isn't for adults to sit down and be like, "Oh, I am intrigued." It could have been that. I am intrigued by the books at this point, and I think I would prefer to read the books before seeing whatever the HBO series is. But for who this movie's meant to be for, I think it's 100% a watch.
Yeah, but who it's meant to be for was wrong. They were probably like, you aim a movie based off a franchise at the fans of that franchise, and they had a series of books starting in 1997 for kids in 1997, and then 10 years later started a movie franchise aimed at kids the same age as the ones who read the book in 1997. So you're aiming it at kids who don't know anything about it and missing the ones who read the books to start with.
So you're saying that's a big Bubbles was aiming the gun from Trailer Park Boys?
From Trailer Park Boys?
He was aiming the gun?
I was wondering if that's what you were getting at. It's like,
Bubbles? Yeah, absolutely.
Is this a Trailer Park Boys thing? Or is this like some kind of weird Powerpuff Girls thing that I don't know about? Like another reference I'm not going to get?
No, I think that's fair. I think that is a fair assessment. But just for, like, I could show this to my kids and I think they would enjoy it.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's not a bad movie, really. Like, there's a good movie in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think they kind of edited around it being good to kind of make it meh and short when it could have been longer and much better. And I think that its financial failure is because, like I said, I think they kind of missed their audience. Their audience had aged out of the type of movie they wound up making. They could have made it darker and it would have been more realistic, and it would have probably been better suited for the audience that they were going for, which wouldn't have been, 9 through.
From a financial aspect, I think that is you might have hit the nail on the head as to why it didn't financially do well.
Yeah, because you're aiming
critically. I think it had to do with some of the ideas in the movie as to why it critically didn't work, like I talked about. And I think it was just went against some of the narratives that are out there right now. A lot of narratives don't want people to be free thinkers. They don't want you to look at both sides of an argument. They want you to believe exactly what I'm telling you to believe. And if you believe anything else, then you're a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that could have played into some of the critical panning of it. But otherwise, there were issues with it. And it's really too bad because, like you said, there's a good movie hidden in here somewhere. If only the director might have been allowed to get all of it out there for us to see.
Yeah, I was just really excited to have a lot of stuff to nitpick about. That's why I wrote so much. It's like, why are they all talking to this kid? This doesn't make any sense. Why are they all taking these kids seriously? Why are they bringing this kid everywhere they go? Like Frodo's kind of that sort of character. The only thing special about Frodo is he's the one that touched the ring. Like, this is your bird. Like, you did it. You touched it now. Like, if Gandalf is corrupted by it, you're all screwed.
Yeah.
If anybody else is corrupted by it, you're all screwed. But this little hobbit, yeah, fine. He can handle it. It's like the least that you have to worry about. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot to nitpick about because of the way they edited it and because they were aiming a movie at like 10-year-olds when their actual fan base that was already built in was like 20.
Yeah, I think I had never really thought about that. That's an extraordinarily good point. And I think it's right on with it. But man, I don't know about you. I think, is it one of the ones, if we disagree about something, the podcast goes longer? Because this Howligans has been a long one.
Yeah, it has.
It has
But
indeed. I hope you all have enjoyed the ride. We are always thankful to have you along for it. I'm done. I call it a watch. He calls it not a watch. We're differing on this one, and that's okay.
I would call it a check out the books,
Yeah,
because I might do that actually. I might, if I
I'm
have some
intrigued by
time.
that as well.
Yeah, maybe I'll get the audiobook. I'm sure
Ah,
there's got to be one. If
oh
it
my
was
gosh!
popular
I just
enough for a
realized.
movie, there's got to be an audiobook.
I'm sure. I just realized we forgot to do it again. Tell us where they can all all the Halligans can get a hold of us that we should have done in the very beginning of this
We
podcast.
should have. They can email us at moviehell@gmail.com. They can get a hold of you specifically, our social media manager at moviehell. And
Don't put that
they
on
can
me.
also comment on YouTube, since we post all this on YouTube with a, long video of my fish as the background. I've been
Hey,
meaning
we
to
like
record
fish.
something
Fish are
else, but
great.
there has to be something there. I don't want it to just be. I've seen podcasts that just put like a blank background and like a
Yeah,
title,
no.
but it's like just something more interesting. But it's kind of a time commitment to set a camera up for a couple hours in front of something and have that not change significantly during that time, but also be
Agreed.
dynamic.
So Halligans, once again, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Hope you've enjoyed this one. The Golden Compass. Maybe a meh? I
A
liked
meh.
it. He did
It's a resounding meh.
a resounding meh.
I like it because it gave me something to complain about. So I guess in that way, I like it.
And I like it because it brought me back to my childhood and some of the movies I really enjoyed from back then that probably could be nitpicked apart just as much. And I don't want to, so we're not doing those.
Oh, come on.
All right. Once again, I hate cats. I've been Joe,
I'm Ryan.
and we are out.